Hi, this is Nat, and today we're taking a look at the trouble with Steam Greenlight and Early Access programs. First off, we'll look at how Greenlight operates. It's supposed to be a process which aids independent game developers by giving them access to Steam's audience, and allow them to petition the audience for support or upvotes to gain the opportunity to sell their game on Steam. The launch of Greenlight in August 2012 was a disaster. Users found the system impossible to use as it was swamped with fake submissions in its first week. So Valve responded by introducing a $100 charge to get a game listed. This $100 goes to the charity Child's Play, so at least every terrible game Greenlight inflicts on the world has done something positive. Since 2012, Valve has released numerous statements about not being happy with the state of the Greenlight process, going so far as to state in January 2014 that they would be phasing out the Greenlight process altogether. Now maybe my watch is wrong, but it doesn't look like 2014 to me, and Greenlight still persists. And it continues to operate in some strange mystical fashion, which several of the developers themselves either do not seem to understand or willfully ignore. In theory, you pay your $100 and announce, here's the game I have made, or I'm in the process of making. The community on Steam get to view your video, screenshots and description, and can upvote saying, yeah, that's something I'd be interested in, downvote saying, not for me thanks, or ignore it altogether. They can comment and leave feedback suggesting changes they'd like made to the content they've seen, or make suggestions for additions that could be made to improve the game. Or they could ignore the game outright. With enough upvotes, the game is selected by Steam and placed on sale in the store. And then we all gaze in awe at this newfound indie delight. The trouble is not the theory, but its practical application. Some good games simply get buried under the bad. Some developers are too ambitious, and some outright lie. Some developers promise keys despite being discouraged from doing so. The idealized and meritocratic nature of Greenlight was not prepared for the extreme nature of the beg, borrow, steal desperation some have to get their games on Steam. Valve started by greenlighting games too conservatively, then too liberally. They say that they are going to be phasing it out, but it remains. They admit it has problems, but as of yet have not taken any definitive actions. Next up is Steam Early Access. Early Access is a way of continuing to fund a game while it's still under development. In theory, the game in a playable but feature-reduced alpha or beta state is sold to interested gamers. The money from this is used to keep paying for that game to be completed. It's pretty straightforward really. Developers can describe what the completed project will be like, and gamers buy into the idea of the game. Additionally, the gamers can be seen as paying beta testers, locating bugs and issues with the game for the developer to fix. Or maybe they can make further suggestions to improve the game based on its current state. The inspiration for this probably lies with Minecraft, as it was a game sold through an early access model between 2009 and 2011, and the resounding success of it has led other developers to believe they too are secretly not, and thus deserving of your money to continue working on their game. The problem is not the idea of early access, it is how it is presented to consumers. The best explanation of early access that I have heard is that you should think of it as a donation towards a developer or idea that you like, and not a pre-purchase of the speculated finished game. That game might never be completed, or perhaps the one feature you really wanted to see might never be implemented. Exchanging money for an early access title is always a risk if you think you're getting a game, but if you treat it like a donation, you are less likely to be disappointed by it. However, when bigger developers use early access, I am disgusted, especially when they failed to deliver the game they had laid out. Double Fine abandoned space-based DF9. Anyone who bought that game lost out, and it was all Double Fine's fault. The makers of Psychonauts, Brutal Legend, Costume Quest and Broken Age, who remastered the recently released Grim Fandango, let their early access backers down, and simply abandoned space-based DF9. Give an infinite number of monkeys typewriters, and one will write Shakespeare, but that does not mean that all monkeys write Shakespeare. Similarly, not all games are good, not all commentators make valid points, and Valve were ill-prepared for any of this. Valve run a store. They stock a selection of products and sell them to willing customers. Greenlight seems based around the idea that the customer is always right. But I'm afraid as much as that phrase may be ingrained, they're not. Customers are very often wrong. Very, very wrong. Early access is based on the great idea that we should encourage independent developers directly. And I'm in favour of this. I want to help the development of new interesting titles, and see new developers enter the industry seeking to innovate. But the problem isn't with the idea. It's how it's sold to us. Too many believe that getting the early access game with its upcoming features is just a matter of time, when it may never happen at all. And then there are those who abuse the system. What I think Valve needs to do is to intervene more often, get a bit more hands-on and run their store. By all means listen to the customers, take their opinions and desires into consideration, but make and be responsible for the decisions themselves. I would see early access taken off Steam altogether and listed on a separate site as a crowdfunding enterprise. That would remove most people's illusions of each game's completion. Greenlight requires Valve's direct curation. The current curator's system is useful for inspecting the reviews and opinions of critics we respect. However, it is no substitution for Valve's own oversight. The notion of laissez-faire economics died in the 19th century. Valve needs to step up and take responsibility for the quality of the goods sold in their store. We are Dinoslippers USB. If you like this video, please give us a like or leave a comment below. And if you really like this video, then click subscribe and check out our other videos.